NBA players who went to jail. As an NBA player, you are looked up to. Not only do you have a big responsibility on the court, but you have a responsibility to be a role model off the court as well. Today we are going to look at 7 NBA players who failed to live up to their responsibility and ended up in jail. J.R. Smith. J.R. Smith may have been charging his way through the NBA playoffs, but he was also charging his way down the interstate highways nearly a decade ago. Smith was sentenced to 30 days in jail in 2007 after he pleaded guilty to reckless driving, according to the Denver Post. He only ended up having to spend 24 days in the slammer after his black SUV ran into a stop sign and crashed into another car, killing the other driver. Smith has a history of car accidents and reckless driving. He has received 2 speeding tickets and 3 license suspensions in the year after his accident, according to NJ.com.
Like you said, it's not something something like this just happens and I just move on or just forget about. It's impossible.
Corey Blunt. Living up to his last name, Corey Blunt was arrested for possession of 29 pounds of marijuana on December 4, 2008. According to ESPN.com, Blunt and his neighbors reportedly distributed multiple pounds of marijuana in Cincinnati, Ohio. He was a skilled power forward / center at the University of Cincinnati and played his first NBA season with the Chicago Bulls in 1993 to 1994. When Blunt was arrested, reports say police found a 1996 Mercedes-Benz, 2004 Cadillac Escalade, a 2000 Chevrolet Suburban, 3 guns and $29,500 in cash in his possession. The 6'9" Final 4-star player spent 1 year in prison after pleading guilty to 2 charges of felony possession.
Dogs don't hit on money unless there's some sort of substance that they're trained to hit on. And that tells me that money was somehow associated
Patterson.
with the drug.
Another University of Cincinnati alum, Ruben Patterson, was convicted of 3-degree rape in 2001. Patterson, a former shooting guard for Seattle Supersonics, Los Angeles Lakers, and other various NBA teams, attempted to sexually assault his child's nanny in 2000. Reports say he tried to force a sexual act upon the sitter and therefore had to register as a sex offender in Washington. While he didn't plead guilty, he did admit there would be enough evidence for a jury to rule against him. He was convicted to 1 year in prison, but the judge suspended 350 days, so he only served 15 days of it, along with receiving 2 years of probation, according to SeattlePie.com. Kirk Snyder. After breaking and entering into a home in Ohio, Kirk Snyder was arrested in 2009. He was charged with aggravated burglary after assaulting a man who lived in the home, but pleaded not guilty to insanity, which was rejected. Snyder was ordered to serve 3 years in jail and was held on a $550,000 bond. After being released, Snyder played with the Halifax Rainmen, a Canadian team, and retired in 2011. Many consider Snyder's poor decision as a waste of great NBA potential, as he was the 16th overall draft pick in the 2004 NBA draft coming out of the University of Nevada. Charles Smith. Charles Smith, a guard from Georgetown University, went undrafted in the 1989 NBA draft, but Smith paved his own way into the NBA and played for the Boston Celtics and Minnesota Timberwolves. During his up-and-down basketball career, he also played for several Canadian and European teams. In 1992, he was convicted of vehicular homicide, according to the New York Times. Smith left the scene after hitting 2 Boston University students on March 22, 1991, committing a hit-and-run. He was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison, but only served 28 months. Mookie Blaylock. Mookie Blaylock, a former NBA point guard, was involved in a terrible head-on collision in 2013. He was driving himself and a passenger, Monica Murphy, when his car crossed over the center line and caused the crash. Blaylock barely survived the crash as he was put on life support, but his passenger did not. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. However, the sentence was reduced to 3 years in prison as part of the plea deal. Blaylock, who had a history of DUIs and drug interactions, will be placed on 8 years of probation following his prison release.
Pretty bad.
Frank Murphy, in a wheelchair, his leg broken in the wreck that broke his heart and stole from him the love of his life, Monica Randolph Murphy.
She was the heart of our family.
Fast Eddie Johnson Jr. Fast Eddie Johnson, the band shooting guard for the Supersonics, Hawks and Cavaliers, has collected plenty of arrests in the Florida jail system for nearly everything. Johnson has had his fair share of problems with drugs, sexual assault, burglary, violence and much more. You name it, and Eddie Johnson has probably been arrested for it. All his charges caught up to him and Johnson's life spun out of control. He was convicted to life in prison without parole for molesting an 8-year-old girl and is currently serving that sentence according to OCALA.com. If you enjoyed this video, then we're sure you'd enjoy the next one. Click on it right now and enjoy.